High teenage birth rates across Tasmania, similar to those in developing African nations, are prompting calls for drastic action. Experts say the shock statistics make compulsory sex education in schools and free contraception an urgent issue. Fiona Breen spoke to young mums and some of the organisations trying to help them.
Tasmania's rate of births to teenage mothers is the second highest in the nation and almost twice the national average. 27 in every 1,000 Tasmanian births are to teenage mothers, a rate similar to developing nations like Samoa. In some areas of the state, the number of teenage pregnancies is even higher.
I think we should be absolutely horrified by those rates. The rates at Brighton, Glenorchy, Georgetown, Derwent Valley and Burnie are actually the equivalent rates of developing countries.
The national average is 15 per 1,000. In the Derwent Valley, the rate is 4 times that. Brighton is not far behind. Teenage birth rates in Georgetown and Burnie are also high. Tasmania's regional areas have teenage birth rates more in line with African countries like Zimbabwe, Botswana and Rwanda. And those figures don't take into account abortion rates, estimated to be 22 per 1,000 teenage girls.
I think it's very much related to socio-economic disadvantage. If you look at our communities that have the highest rates, and we know where those are, there are terrific differences depending on where you live. And in some areas it's almost the peer norm to have babies as a teenager.
The figures are worrying many organisations, with international and Australian research showing poor outcomes for young mothers and their babies.
That's on a range of things, from health outcomes, educational outcomes. The children tend not to do as well at school, there's more health problems.
Mission Australia is on the front line, supporting teenage mums. Its services are feeling the strain.
We're seeing more and more young mums coming through our services, and that brings with it a whole range of issues that they are facing quite some difficult challenges in their lives.
Many are isolated.
We're finding that an increasing number are living in rural and remote areas, so accessing services because of lack of transport is also a major issue for these young mums.
Family Planning Tasmania and the Public Health Association lay part of the blame on an ad hoc system of sex education in the state's schools. It's not compulsory. It's up to the discretion of principals to find teachers willing to do it or find thousands of dollars in their already tight budgets to pay experts.
So how do you think your free time would change if there was a baby?
You need support, or otherwise you can have like a nervous breakdown and really just collapse and you won't be able to look after the baby properly.
What age do you think's the best age to have a child?
Between 23 and 25, because you've done more things and you've finished school.
Yeah, that's right.
Family Planning has been working at Gilston Bay High on Hobart's eastern shore. A special federal government grant is paying for the lessons. Otherwise, they might not have happened.
The fact that it's not compulsory means that each school needs to decide whether they have any education on this issue. Often teachers aren't taught well enough how to provide this teaching.
Yeah.
About 70% of Tasmanian state primary schools are running classes. The figure for high schools is much lower.
Most of the information that young people are getting in schools, if they do have a program at all, would be about biological information. Access to contraception.
The Public Health Association and Family Planning Tasmania argue the case for compulsory sex education, citing low teenage pregnancy rates in countries like the Netherlands, where sex education is introduced early and sex is talked about liberally.
It's important that a sequential type of education exists right through the curriculum, and that it's compulsory, and that will mean that the level will go up, that teachers are being taught how to teach this.
Easy access to contraception is also a pressing issue.
We've had young people talk about improvising with contraception and talking about using a layer of Glad wrap and a layer of foil followed by another layer of Glad wrap because they find it difficult to access contraception.
In some communities, it's about changing cultural norms.
There is a culture that you can get access to benefits if you're a young mum. There's a culture that, you know, my mum was a mum at a very young age. There's nothing else to do in our local community. I'll become a mum as well.
Jess Jackson understands the impact of teenage pregnancy. At 23, she's just getting her life back and is now studying. She fell pregnant at 16.
At the time, I don't think I really thought about it that much. I thought it was going to be easy. Having a baby was easy. I always remember the TV show The Gilmore Girls, and I used to think how cool it would be to have a baby so young and be like best friends, but it's definitely not like that. I think it's very glamorised and it's very hard.
Her life plans changed and she struggled to deal with the negative stereotypes.
I got judged so much. Every time I went to school, I felt like everyone was talking about me. And
despite a lot of support and a committed relationship to her baby's father, she still felt isolated.
I felt so alone that I had no friends. You've just lost that friendly connection. Like, you've got your family. So it's just nice to take your mum hat off for a little while and, yeah, be a teenager again, I suppose.
Millie's face.
It was a similar situation for MAKAYLA Young, also 16 and in grade 11 when she fell pregnant.
I was only in college, ready to finish my dance exam. I didn't get to do that, and that's a really big passion of mine, was dancing. And I never got to finish that. I never got to progress in photography, as I was explaining, and I never got to do my writing.
MAKAYLA Young is quick to dispel the myth of living it up on government benefits.
What I get now for family tax would be nothing to what I would be earning on a full-time job. I don't even know how people expect you to live on what they give you.
Cost of housing, food and power are just some of the bills she struggles to pay. Close friend Alyssa Risley has moved in to help pay the rent.
She could see that I was struggling, and she'd just broken up with her partner of 4 years. And so she moved in with me, and she's now paying $100 a week. So that brings ours down to $230 a week. So that definitely makes it a lot easier.
She's determined to break out of a cycle of poverty. Both young mothers, now in their 20s, are happy with their young families. But would they recommend being a teenage mum?
I wouldn't suggest it, because a lot of things did change and it was a lot of shock.
What would you say to other teenagers now? What message would you give them?
Having a baby when you're young is not cool. It's hard work. I think it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not like the Gilmore Girls.